Pardon?
I saw your sister move that.
Make sure you guys. I can't hear you. What?
Oh, I saw your sister. That is.
Sleeves on the shirt.
She made music video, but it's got.
He's marked like he's coming. Counselor Nishioka, he's marked like he's coming.
Okay, well, I'll start right here. If he's never able to, he might come in online.
Okay, we'll go ahead and call this meeting of the City of Salem Legislative Committee to order. President Arhoy.
Stapleton, Nordike.
And we have alternate Mr. Oka here if needed. And we'll go ahead and get started. Justin, we have a legislative session update under your name, but I'm going to go ahead and do that and instead. And so I am just going to update it this way. Things aren't going well for us so far in terms of our asks, but we're still in there pitching. And the gavel hasn't fallen yet on the final day, and we're going to keep swinging until it's done. So that's our update. Courtney, would you like to talk about specific policy bills?
Sure, I can, but I'd also just like to say that there have been a lot of rumors about what Salem may have gotten, and
Yeah.
those rumors are not true. There is nothing currently allocated for the city in any of the funding proposals that are
Right.
on the floor. So just have there, you might have seen something that came out that would have indicated that we had some money for NAV Center or for sheltering. That's old news. That's from last session. It was accidentally picked up and distributed. And then you might also have seen something labeled airport terminal. And that is not, we just confirmed it's actually for the forestry hangar. So, so sorry about that. I think we might have perpetuated the rumor about the terminal on accident. Anyway, so I just want to make sure everybody has that. When you say nothing, it's literally nothing.
Right.
Okay.
Zero, nothing.
Zero, nothing.
Zero. Yeah.
So am I understanding correctly, on our agenda, it says funding priority, sheltering program, NAV Center, River Road Slide Mitigation, Peace Plaza Public Square. Are you telling us that we're not getting any of that funding?
Correct.
So far.
These are the priorities that the council adopts
Yeah.
every year. And so that just, those are our marching orders. And I try to keep them on the agenda as a way to keep us all mindful of, especially Justin, of what we're chasing. And the answer is right now, I mean, we've submitted on all of these and did all the right things, but did not receive any funding. So on the policy bill, priority bills, it's true that we got photo radar. Yay.
Which is a good thing.
It is a good
Trying
thing.
for that one for a while.
And I lost track of the Towing Association, but I think they didn't get anywhere.
No, it didn't get anywhere, so that'll come back. Again, there's a emphasis on transportation issues in 25. That's what we're hearing.
This is really
Coming
more
back to the
this is
river.
really more of a homeless issue, but
Yes.
transportation, but yeah.
We'll try to slide her in there.
It could be around fees for.
Yeah.
Recreational vehicles, so.
Yep.
And then payment in lieu of taxes, again, we don't have any good news there.
No.
So that's where we stand, and lest you feel alone, almost every city also did not see any sheltering support.
Right.
I think there might have been a small bit for a city up north or a county up north, I can't remember, but the point is nothing.
So can I ask a question?
Sure.
So if this administration's focus really is on homelessness and mental health and access to housing, how are we seeing that come out?
So the governor's emergency order earlier in the session appears to be the vehicle by which they are manifesting that priority. The one and only way they're manifesting that priority.
And so far, all that we're seeing is funding for new investments, not funding to sustain existing investments.
Right.
And so there may also be some confusion among the members about what that bill means and what's going on, but we've been pretty, I think, vocal and articulate about how that doesn't help us or other cities.
So money came to our region that was allocated out to the Midland Valley Homeless Alliance, which was a really great process, and it will help our regional partners, including Silverton, Monmouth, in some other areas. If you haven't heard, the recent micro shelter location proposal in Monmouth has been withdrawn. And so they're back to ground zero and back to searching for a site in Monmouth for that, or somewhere in rural Polk County, not necessarily Monmouth. Everything's on the table.
So I have a question. Our funding priorities do include homelessness, of course, but it also includes non-homelessness items, River Road, slide mitigation, and Peace Plaza, Public Square.
Right.
Do we have a sense as to why those items were denied? I assume they would come from different pots of money, different priorities, and so on.
We don't know why.
Okay.
And we're still hopeful that something will get in there before the final gavel. So that's why we're just kind of in a wait and see pattern. Justin's working his magic, but the magic this session.
There isn't much fairy dust.
Yes, it seems to be more voodoo than magic. I don't know how else to say it.
Does this have a lot to do with the walkout? I mean, it just seems like, did that disrupt the ability for us to effectively advocate?
I think it's
for
the
our
whole
priorities?
dynamic. I think it's the whole dynamic with new leadership, the walkout, I think it's just the everything. Best we can tell so far. It's like
Mhm.
all of it. Staffing turnover.
Yeah.
Big capital.
Bunch of new members walk out. We don't have
We lost
we don't
some
have
residents.
folks in roles of leadership like we used to.
Mhm.
And I think all of that comes together. So everything you mentioned, yes. And specifically to River Road slide mitigation, we've been told countless times in our meetings with legislators, with our meetings with leadership, that 2025 is going to be a focus on transportation. So that's why I would assume that those things were pushed off a little bit.
Okay.
But I think it's a blend of all those elements that you mentioned.
Understood. Thank you.
And we want to assume the best of everyone that
Yep.
probably
So
just got away from everybody.
Mhm.
And I'm sure the walkout had something to do with that and the newness, all those things.
Right.
So that's where we stand with the policy priorities right now. If there's anything else we want to address about this current session, we can do so. I'd like to start talking about our federal priorities next, but are there any other questions? Anybody have any? I mean, you guys are all tracking many, many bills. Is there anything you have a question about? Anybody?
I didn't see a printout. I know in the past we've had a printout showing our priority bills and things we've been taking a position on, taking no position on, and so on. I'm sure you emailed it to me, but I haven't had a chance to review it.
No, we don't have any bills recommended for this session, or for this session of the committee, but we do have all the historic, and we'll be preparing a report on
Okay.
the city's positions and the status at the end of the session.
Great.
And that's coming next.
All right,
But
that's fine.
just need them to,
No problem. I just want to make sure I haven't missed something.
no, you didn't. It's the light agenda because we don't have money.
Fair enough. Yeah.
For the newbie, could you give me an update on the timeline, the next couple of weeks? What does that hold for us?
It's really,
Hours.
it's anywhere from right now to the next couple of days on when this is gonna end. Has to end by what, Tuesday?
Sunday.
Sunday.
So they're almost done.
So they're in that final push. And it's all a big question of what gets done and what doesn't. Between now and the end time, so.
Okay.
And then over the next month, expect to see a report from us that'll show everything we tracked, everything we looked at, everything that we know we probably will see again or not see again, but then we can start to get strategic moving forward based on what you see.
Getting ready right away for February,
Perfect. Thank you.
so.
And we felt it was important to meet, even though, as we've noticed, the agenda is light. We felt it was important to meet because it's been in the news quite a bit, all of the different things that are going on. And given that we won't meet again before the session is over, we thought it was important to just catch everybody up.
And on our federal priorities aren't listed on the agenda, but that's
That's next.
really next, so yeah, go for it.
So I just want to point out that we had a fabulous visit from Summit Strategies, who's our federal lobbyist. We did a lot of touring of some of the major, what we hope are major investments that we're able to achieve through our federal lobbying force. We saw the water treatment facility, there are a couple projects there that are really critical to keeping that facility running, including the access bridge. And we saw Front Street and had ideas or imagination about what might be needed in order to support development of that area. We also did a whole bunch of street pathways. I think we were up at, well, you were in the van.
Yeah.
Would you like to share a little bit about what you saw?
Well, we went on a great tour and looked at a bunch of different parks and well, not a bunch, a few different parks and a few different projects for active transportation, as well as just some bigger things like the slide mitigation and Front Street, and just trying to give them a visual of what the issues are and what the potential is. And it was really, really good.
And
We took it out to the airport.
I was gonna say, we rounded out with an airport tour, which was, I think, illuminating for them about the potential. The things that I felt they had the most buzz about was the Front Street and all the different layers of funding opportunities there, and then the airport terminal. So those were exciting conversations.
I got to really understand the railroad challenges on
Yeah.
that street and that sort of thing. Until you actually see it, it's kind of hard to really appreciate.
Yeah, we were parked there. I don't know how many people on bikes went by. So several people just in the few minutes that we were there. And then of course, all the cars going by. It was really illuminating. Yeah,
This train didn't go by.
the train did not, it was bumped, but we.
Yeah, that's a special level. of-
Yeah.
Train goes.
You haven't lived until you played chicken.
Yeah.
Right,
The
like,
train.
what do I do here?
Yeah. So what we're planning on doing is having a conversation with you all on the 28th of July, wherein we hope to present some candidates for priorities for funding and for policy issues at the federal level. And we're going to be vetting them up until that point and having a pretty good, I hope, conversation among staff about what we might be interested in, and then add in Summit's perspective on what we could be most successful with and what we might need to lay more groundwork to achieve. And then we're looking at a September timeline for a visit to our delegation in DC. And then we have a couple other major milestones over the course of the year that they are interested in having us pursue. And I expect that we'll have a calendar of those things, much as we do on the state level. We'll have a calendar of those major milestones available to you on July 28th as well. That'll really be the kickoff of this shall be the federal priority. And then it'll have a little bit more back and forth. We'll probably take it to council for okay. And then I'll have a little bit more back and forth and truth testing on the ground in DC in September before we finalize it and make it pretty.
Yeah, and so what you're seeing here is really our first foray into a federal agenda in a formal federal agenda in a while. We've kind of gone one-offs here and there, but we're really trying to make it more like our state process in terms of having an agenda, having a council approved federal agenda with the strategy to try to deliver on that agenda. So this is kind of the first step into that world. So now that we've re-engaged with a federal lobbyist, who Justin works really closely with. And so that's there was multiple benefits to the firm that we hired.
And I think too, I don't know if you saw, put it on your calendar. We're planning to bring you guys together because there's a lot of conversation that can occur about, well, this is good for federal, this is better for state, kind of positioning all of our priorities with that mindset where we're thinking about both things simultaneously.
River Road is a great example of that. Like, is that really a state priority? Is it better a federal on the federal agenda? You know, do we do both? And
Right.
that's really a great example of a project that like needs some strategic thinking.
Or do we pursue a little bit of state money that can be the match for the federal grant, which is kind of how we're approaching the terminal expansion work that we have 2 federal pitches in right now for. So it's that kind of strategy that I think can really improve our chances on all fronts and all levels. So the only other thing we have on the 28th is an update. You may remember we had a conversation about an EPA rule change coming out of the Supreme Court. Dan, I know, Dan Atchison is working on that impact.
He finished that work.
But we haven't, he's not here today to present it. And so we'll be doing that on the 28th, if not before.
And he has shared that with council.
Perfect. I thought he asked for an audience, so I think he might want to talk about it. And so we'll do that on the 28th. Are there any other things that you all might want to see or hear from us? So in terms of next steps, we're going to be starting to work on the federal agenda. We're going to begin closing out this session and start focusing on next legislative session here. And so the closeout report usually we deliver to council in July. Would you all like a moment with it before we take it to council directly, or yes? Okay,
Yeah,
So
I would
we'll-
like to review that on the 28th. Plan
perfect.
to do that and have this group review on the 28th to make sure that we're all on the same page and up to speed on it, and then take it to council after that.
Perfect. So you might imagine that we'll be the whole hour together on the 28th.
Sounds good. 20th of June.
July, please.
July. I'm going to be camping on the 28th, so if you can just email it to me in advance, I'll get you my input, but I plan to be somewhere with zero cell phone connectivity that day.
Councilor
great-
Nishioka will plan to attend in your stead.
Okay,
Thank you.
But yeah, definitely get it to me a few days in advance if possible, just so I have enough time to review and really give it a thoughtful analysis, and I'll share my comments with Mayor Hoy and the team.
It's my preference always to give things out at least a week, if not more
Right.
in advance. We just got a little jammed up and it was nothing on the agenda this time, so I thought it was big, okay. We do have a 24-hour notice requirement, but I do like to let people have a chance to think.
Thank you.
So is there anything else that anyone wants to address, or anything else we should plan for next month when we gather?
Since we have so many new members of our legislative delegation, what can we as counselors do to really start building those relationships in a way that helps support the city in getting these investments in the future?
Yeah, I think as we take a look at what happened in this session, as we kind of, talk about doing a review of what happened, and I really feel like we need an interim strategy, and I think that can be part of that, like meetings and conversations, and and I think that's a really great point, is like engaging with folks. I know that we do it as needed, but I want to be really strategic in this interim, especially, we have members that have never represented Salem before because of redistricting, also because of elections. And I really feel like sometimes, I know the person that represents my area of Salem, I don't even think, he doesn't come to Salem a lot in terms, except for coming to the Capitol. So I really want to be more thoughtful of engaging, the folks who live east of 45th Avenue, because it's a constituency that is kind of being forgotten right now. And I would love to have a way to engage. And I know, for instance, my new senator, the last time I talked to him was probably 5 years ago. In another capacity. And so I would like to come up with a way to really start engaging the whole delegation. Because right now, that's not really happening.
Would it make sense to invite them to, tour some key city facilities, for example?
Oh, always. And to your point, even with a new delegation, even with new members of the legislature, it's still a relationship business. And once they start hitting their stride, we need to make sure that they know what our needs are. We need to make sure to highlight what you guys are doing in their communities with their constituents. That's just retail, government relations that we need to continue to do. And as they get more and more experienced over time and have that knowledge base from us and from you as their peers, the better off we end up doing. So it's okay to do a postmortem on this, but then we got to figure out how to pivot and move forward, because thanks to our former Senate president, we're now an annual legislature. And so timeframes do really get compressed. So to your point, anytime we can get folks on a tour, and anytime we can continue to build those relationships, we need to do it.
And interim is going to be best because we had, I think, 2 failed attempts to set up an economic development walking tour. This time because of the walkout and everything. So interim is best for some of that more in-depth work.
What's our relationship with our new congressperson, Andrea Salinas? Are we in touch with her?
Yes.
Yes, we have we talked with Fritz, her field person. We have frequent contacts with their office, and she's scheduled, we've had her scheduled for a couple of things, and she's had to cancel, once due to illness and once due to some other thing, but we're trying to get her into events here as she's available.
And Summit's got really good relationships with her.
Yeah.
Obviously, that district. Summit came out of Volcanic. That was the government relations section of Volcanic. So I know those relationships run deep. And we've known her from when she was at the state. So I think it'll be good. We'll do an inventory. We'll do a stakeholder inventory when Courtney talks about getting federal and state together, and we'll see who's got the relationships, how we can utilize those, and what we need to build on, what we need to work on. That's all part of that meeting of getting together and working on a strategic plan going forward.
And Summit's making a lot of those introductions and entrees for staff too. So we're doing that now.
All right, anything else? Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.